Digging for apples indeed, said Rabbit angrily. Here, come and help me out of this. Sounds of more breaking glass. Now tell me, Platt, what's in that window? Sure, it's an arm, Your Honour. He pronounced it arm. An arm, you goose? Who ever saw one that size? Why, it fills the whole window. Sure it does, Your Honour, but it's an arm for all that. Well, it's got no business there, at any rate. Go and take it away. There was a long silence, and after this Alice could only hear whispers, and now and then such as, Sure, I don't like it, Your Honour. Not at all, not at all. Do as I tell you, you coward. And at last she spread out her hand again and made another snatch in the air. This time there were two little shrieks and more sounds of broken glass. What a number of cucumber frames there must be, thought Alice. I wonder what they'll do next. As for pulling me out of this window, I only wish they could. I'm sure I don't want to stay here any longer. She waited for some time without hearing anything more. At last came a rumbling of little cartwheels and the sound of a good many voices, all talking together. She made out the words. Where's the other ladder? Why, I've only brought one out. Bill's got the other. Bill, fetch it here, lad. Put him here up in the corner. No, tie him together first. They don't reach half as high enough yet. Oh, they'll do well enough. Don't be particular. Here, Bill, catch hold of this rope. Will the roof bear? Mind that loose slate. Oh, it's coming down. Heads below. And a loud crash. Now, who did that? It was Bill, I fancy. Who goes down the chimney? Nay, I shan't. You do it. That won't do then. Bill to go down. Here, Bill. The master says you've got to go down the chimney. Oh, so Bill's got to come down the chimney, has he? Said Alice to herself. Why, he seems to put everything upon Bill. One wouldn't be Bill in Bill's place for a good deal. This fireplace is narrow, to be sure, but I think I can kick a little. And she drew her foot as far down the chimney as she could and waited till she heard a little animal, and she couldn't guess at what sort it was, scratching and scrambling about in the chimney close above her. Then, saying to herself, This is Bill, she gave one sharp kick and waited to see what would happen next. The first thing she heard was a general chorus of, There goes Bill! Then the rabbit's voice alone, Catch him, catch him, catch him! You by the hedge, and then silence, and then another confusion of voices. Hold up his head, brandy now, don't choke him. How was it, old fellow? What happened to you? Tell us all about it. At last came a little feeble squeaking voice. That's Bill, thought Alice. Well, I hardly know. No more than you, I better now, but I'm a bit too flustered to tell you. All I know is something comes at me like a jack-in-the-box, and up goes like a skyrocket. So you did, old fellow, said the others. We must burn the house down, said Rabbit's voice, and Alice called out as loud as she could, If you do that, I'll set Dinah on you. There was a deal of silence instantly, and Alice thought to herself, I wonder what they will do next. If they had any sense, they'd take the roof off. After a minute or two, they began moving about again, and Alice heard the rabbit say, A barrowful will do, to begin with. A barrowful of what, thought Alice? But she had not long to dart, for the next moment a shower of little pebbles came rattling at the window, and some of them hit her in the face. I'll put a stop to this, she said to herself, and shouted out, You better not do that again, which produced another dead silence. Alice noticed with some surprise that the pebbles were all turning into little cakes as they lay on the floor, and a bright idea came to her head. If I eat one of these cakes, she thought, it's sure to make some change in my size, and as it can't possibly make me any larger, it must make me smaller, I suppose. So she swallowed one of the cakes and was delighted to find that she began shrinking directly. As soon as she was small enough to get through the door, she ran out of the door and found herself quite a crowd of little animals and birds waiting outside. The poor little lizard Bill was in the middle, being held up by two guinea pigs, and who were giving him something out of a bottle. They all made a rush at Alice the moment she appeared, but she ran off as hard as she could, and soon found herself safe in a thick wood. The first thing I've got to do, said Alice to herself as she wandered about the wood, is to grow to my right size again, and the second thing is to find my way into that lovely garden. I think that will be the best plan. It sounded an excellent plan, no doubt, and very neatly and simply arranged. The only difficulty was that she had not the smallest idea how to set about it, and while she was peering about anxiously among the trees, a little sharp bark just over her head made her look up in a great hurry. Ruff! An enormous puppy was looking down at her with one paw, trying to touch her. "Poor little thing," said Alice in a coaxing voice, and she tried hard to whistle to it, but she was terribly frightened all the time and thought that it might be hungry, in which case it would be very likely to eat her up. And in spite of her coaxing, hardly knowing what to do, she picked up a little bit of stick and held it out to the puppy, whereupon the puppy jumped into the air and off its feet all at once with a yelp of delight and rushed at the stick and made believe to worry it. And then Alice dodged behind a great thistle to keep herself from being run over. And the moment she appeared on the other side, the puppy made another rush at the stick and tumbled head over heels in a hurry to get hold of it. Then Alice, thinking it was very like having a game of play with a cart horse and expecting every moment to be trampled under its feet, ran round the thistle again. And then the puppy began a series of short charges at the stick, running a very little way forward each time and a long way back, and barking hoarsely all the while, till at last it sat down a good way off, panting, with its tongue hanging out of its mouth and its great eyes half shut. This seemed to Alice a good opportunity for making her escape, so she set off at once and ran until she was quite tired and out of breath, till the puppy's bark sounded quite faint in the distance. "And yet, what a dear little puppy it was," said Alice, as she leant against a buttercup to rest herself and fanned herself with one of the leaves. "I should have liked to teaching it tricks very much if I'd only been the right size to do it. Oh dear, I nearly forgot that I've got to grow up again. Let me see, how is this to be managed? I suppose I ought to drink or eat something or other, but the great question is what?" The great question certainly was what. Alice looked all round her at the flowers and the blades of grass, but she could not see anything that looked like the right thing to eat or drink under the circumstances. There was a large mushroom growing near her, about the same height as herself, and when she looked under it and on both sides of it and behind it, it occurred to her that she might as well look and see what was on the top of it. She stretched herself up on tiptoe and peered over the edge of the mushroom. Her eyes immediately met those of a large blue caterpillar that was sitting on the top with its arms folded, quietly smoking a long hookah and taking not the smallest notice of her or anything else.